And we now welcome in on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline, college football insider, expert, and a guy who's been on the program several times, Brett McMurphy of Stadium Sports. Brett, nice to have you back on BYU Sports Nation.
Great to be with you guys. Thank you.
I think the question of the day for every BYU football fan is, where are the Cougars going to fit into this brand new BYU bowl tie-in scenario with ESPN and their 16 games and everything else that's out there? So, Brett, where would you place BYU or think that the Cougars will be placed when these bowl tie-ins come out?
Like you said, one of about 12 games. That's the unfortunate thing, is you won't be able to, unless ESPN and BYU announce before each season that they'll be headed to a specific game. But I don't think it's going to be that way. I think going forward in 2020 that the non-Power 5 bowls will have a number of conference tie-ins for these bowl games, two or three, well, obviously two conferences, but they'll have more than two conferences for a lot of these games. So that will allow ESPN to move and match a lot of different matchups during the 6-year period. And obviously BYU will fit in somewhere. They will be guaranteed a spot somewhere, but I don't know if it's going to be as clear-cut as it's been in the past, where before going into the season like this year, you know, you're headed to Hawaii if you get the 6 wins. I don't know if it's going to be that clear cut. Maybe it will be. Obviously, BYU would like it that way. I just don't know, with the flexibility that ESPN's doing with these bowl games that they own, if they would be that specific. Again, it's still a year out, so we'll find out.
So are you saying there's going to be more flexibility in terms of who's going where when the postseason bowl games shake out?
Yeah, for those, again, ESPN owns 16 games, and of the 16, I think only 4 are really locked in with 2 conferences. So I won't go through the whole list. If you want me to, I will. I'm sure you don't. But of the 16, the 4 that BYU pretty much probably will never go to, that ESPN owns, is the Fenway Park Bowl in Boston, the Texas Bowl, the Las Vegas Bowl. Those 3 for certain, because those are locked in with 2 conferences. Those 2 conferences will be in those games every year. But then the remaining, 12 or 13 games involve non-Power 5 schools. So, for instance, the Myrtle Beach Bowl, that's probably not one BYU would go to. But for an example, for the 6 years of that bowl game, there's 3 conferences: Conference USA, the Mid-American, and the Sun Belt. So over that 6-year period, those 3 conferences will play in that game at least 4 times during those 6 years. So they can move and match teams and conferences around within that bowl. So if for 1 year maybe a conference is light with number of bowl-eligible teams, then ESPN could slide BYU into the Myrtle Beach Bowl, for example. Obviously, geography-wise, that's probably not one they would want to go to, but hey, BYU's been to Miami Beach in the past, so anything's possible. It's just, there's about, like I said, 12 or 13 of those games that involve more than 2 conferences. So I think BYU would certainly be in the mix for any of those that are owned by ESPN.
Brett McMurphy of Stadium Sports with us on BYU Sports Nation. And maybe this next question I'm going to ask is hard to answer, but BYU fans want the biggest, the best, the brightest spotlight, the most money. So of those 12 or 13 games, Brett, which of them are more desirable for a team like BYU?
You know, they're really, they may be like $500,000 difference, but they're all the non-Power 5 bowls. And so the payouts are pretty similar. I don't think it's going to be a huge difference. For instance, if they go to the Frisco Bowl or the Hawaii Bowl, or if they go to Armed Forces, or they go to Boca Raton, it's really going to be a wash. The biggest thing will probably impact is how much they're going to spend on travel and take that off of what they would make from the bowl game. So I really don't see it being a big difference. It's just, again, they want to make the best matchups, obviously geography-wise, and also, whatever matchups present itself.
Have we reached a point where we're not going to go beyond a certain number of bowl games, in your opinion? Because, hey, if we have 40 bowl games and there's 80 of the 130 teams, perhaps we can't fill all these bowls. Now we're throwing a 5 and 7 team in there and APR comes in or whatever. Do you think there's a number that's kind of the glass is full now?
Well, the NCAA did that last year. We were at 40 bowl games, that includes the title game. So we were at 39 bowl games, 78 teams. But then they allowed the addition of 3 new bowl games. Excuse me, going forward in 2020. That's the Fenway Park Bowl in Boston, the Myrtle Beach Bowl, and the Los Angeles Bowl. So they said that the system could add 3 more bowl games. So now we're at 42 games, 84 teams, excluding the championship game. And so that's for the next 6 years. Now the NCAA in 2 or 3 years, they can revisit this and say, hey, if there's a lot of 6 and 6 teams that are not going bowling, they could allow the addition of more bowl games. I don't think they're going to come and say, well, we're going to make these bowl games go dark because we've got 5 and 7 teams. But they looked at the historical trends of the last half dozen years and decided that the bowl system could survive or could support 42 games, 84 teams. So we'll have to see if that turns out. Some years you're going to have 3 or 4 6 and 6 teams that don't get in, and other years you may have 2 or 3, 5 or 7 teams get in, just kind of how the season breaks.
Brett McMurphy, college football insider for Stadium Sports on BYU Sports Nation. I'm almost afraid to ask this next question because I feel like we're opening Pandora's box again, Brett. But where does the expansion rumor or...
No. We get Brett on just to talk expansion. We found an excuse with the bowl games, right?
Well, where do you stand on all this? Do you think that it's still imminent that at some point, whether it's 2023 or 2024, when these TV contracts come up, that some shifting will still happen, or do you feel like things are pretty secure?
You know, they're as secure as the Power 5 leagues want them to be, because they're the ones that will determine if there is going to be a huge shift. You know, if the American decides to add somebody, or the Sun Belt or whatever, that's going to impact one team. It's not going to cause a huge domino effect. You know, I think expansion and the playoff are kind of tied in. We've got 6 more years or 7 more years left with the college football playoff. That coincides with these new bowl agreements. So the new contract would start in 2026. I think if we do get one final round of expansion, that it would happen around 2024, 2025, or 2026. And it's simple, but it's not simple. If one of the power leagues goes to 16, then I think at least 3 of the other power leagues go to 16, to reacting to the first power league. And then that starts the merry-go-round again, and then we'll have to see where everybody ends up. But I do think that would be the final one. If the Power 5 decide, hey, we're good where we're at, then I don't think we'll see any expansion. You know, obviously for BYU fans, you want one of the power leagues to go to 16, because then, like I said, the other ones will react. To go to 16, they're going to have to pull teams up that are currently not in Power 5 leagues to fill those spots. And, you know, it's impossible to predict who those would be or what leagues would expand. But certainly if that happens, if there is movement, you know, BYU's got a shot. If there's no movement, then BYU doesn't have a shot. UCF doesn't have a shot. Houston, USF, you can name them all. They're going to be stuck where they're at now.
What's more likely, that expansion happens or that the Power 5 football teams break away and form their own division?
I don't know if I thought that they would break away and form their own division. I think maybe at some point they might, but right now they're pretty much getting whatever they want. The NCAA is letting them come up with whatever rule changes they want. They can do those, you know, as Power 5 leagues. They don't have to worry about the other schools being on board with them that are not in the power leagues. So they're kind of getting the best of both worlds right now. Ultimately, like everything else that's led to expansion and which led to the college football playoff, it boils down to money. So to answer your question, I don't know. but the correct answer is whatever makes them the most money is what is going to happen. If that means split off onto their own, if that means stay the way it is, if that means, just designate a split within the NCAA between the power leagues and the non-power leagues, whatever is the best for them financially, that's the way they're going to go. It's really impossible to say with any certainty what that would be.
Brett, correct me if I'm wrong. You're based in Tampa, Florida, correct?
Yes. That's
okay,
right.
BYU makes a trip to play USF this fall. Where's the one place we need to eat in Tampa, Florida?
Absolutely. Make your reservations right now for Burns Steakhouse.
Burns Steakhouse. We're writing it down.
Yes. It's been, God, I don't know. It's been around 60, 70, 80 years. It's one of those iconic steakhouses. The interior is incredible. They have I'm not big into wine, but take the tour. They have a tour. You can go in the wine cellar. They've got, $1,000, $10,000 bottles of wines in there. They have a second floor dessert room that you have to have reservations to go into the dessert room. It's incredible, and it will sell. It will fill up fast. So when I say make your reservations now, I'm actually not joking.
Yeah,
if they will take them, make them.
October 11th and 12th, the Friday and Saturday. Yeah, let's go.
Brett,
I mean, that place, the week of the college football playoff, the week of the Super Bowl, you can't get in there. It's impossible. But it's an iconic place. It's pretty cool. The atmosphere is unreal. Plan to spend a good 2 or 3 hours there, and incredible food too.
Fantastic stuff. Brett, always nice to catch up with you. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Brett.
Anytime.
Brett McMurphy, Stadium Sports College Football Insider, giving us not just the details on bowl games and potential expansion and Power Fives breaking away, but the place to eat in Tampa, Florida.